The first thing to understand is that the sumo squat is more than a simple bending of the knees. It is a movement that awakens some of the largest and most important muscles in the human body, especially the glutes, the inner thighs, the hips, and the deep stabilizing muscles around the pelvis. After the age of 50, these muscles often begin to lose strength, not because the body suddenly becomes incapable, but because modern life gradually reduces the amount of natural movement people perform every day. Long hours of sitting, limited walking, and the quiet habit of avoiding physically demanding tasks slowly teach the body that these muscles are no longer essential. The nervous system adapts to this reduced demand, and the muscles themselves begin to shrink in size and responsiveness. What once felt effortless, such as standing up from a chair or climbing a few stairs, slowly requires more effort and concentration. When someone over 50 begins practicing the sumo squat daily, even gently and without intensity, something remarkable begins to happen inside the body. The wide stance of the sumo squat immediately activates the inner thigh muscles, an area often neglected in common daily movement. At the same time, the glute muscles at the back of the hips begin to engage, which are among the most powerful muscles in the human body and essential for standing, walking, and maintaining posture. As the hips move downward and then return to standing, the body sends signals through the nervous system that these muscle groups are once again required. This signal is not just mechanical, it is biological. Muscle fibers begin to receive increased blood flow, delivering oxygen and nutrients that help maintain their structure. Another subtle but important effect occurs within the joints themselves. The knees and hips are designed to move regularly through bending and straightening, allowing the cartilage inside these joints to remain nourished. Cartilage does not have its own direct blood supply. Instead, it receives nutrients through the movement of joint fluid during motion. When a person performs the sumo squat slowly and carefully, the compression and release of the joint surfaces stimulate the circulation of this fluid. Over time, this gentle mechanical rhythm helps maintain joint health and mobility, reducing stiffness that often appears with age. The body also begins to rebuild coordination between different muscle groups. In younger years, the glutes, thighs, and core muscles naturally cooperate to produce smooth movement. But after long periods of inactivity, this coordination can become less efficient. The sumo squat retrains this cooperation. The feet remain grounded, the knees move outward, the hips descend in alignment, and the core stabilizes the spine. With repetition, the nervous system refines this pattern, allowing the movement to feel more natural and stable over time. Even more interesting is how quickly the body begins to respond to consistent signals. Muscles are highly adaptable tissues. When they sense repeated activation, they start reinforcing their internal structures, maintaining strength and endurance even with modest effort. For someone over 50, this means that a few daily repetitions can gradually rebuild the functional strength required for everyday life. Standing, walking, lifting groceries, or rising from a seated position begins to feel smoother and more confident. What initially appears to be a small daily habit quietly becomes a powerful biological message, reminding the body that strength, stability, and movement are still necessary parts of living. The second remarkable effect unfolds in the hips, a region of the body that quietly carries much of the responsibility for movement, balance, and stability throughout life. The hips are designed to be one of the most mobile joints in the human body, capable of moving in multiple directions while supporting the weight of the entire upper body. Yet after the age of 50, many people begin to notice that their hips feel tighter, less responsive, almost as if the body has forgotten how freely it once moved. This change is not simply a matter of aging. It is often the result of reduced range of motion in daily life. Modern routines rarely require wide stepping, deep bending, or full engagement of the inner thighs and hip rotators. Over time, the muscles surrounding the hip joint gradually shorten and stiffen, and the joint itself moves through a smaller and smaller range of motion. The sumo squat introduces a movement pattern that gently challenges this limitation. The defining feature of the exercise is the wide stance, where the feet are placed farther apart and the toes are angled slightly outward. This position invites the hips to open in a way that many ordinary movements never demand. As the body lowers into the squat, the inner thigh muscles, known as the adductors, begin to stretch and activate simultaneously. These muscles play an essential role in stabilizing the pelvis and controlling side-to-side movement. During walking and standing, When they are rarely engaged, the pelvis can become less stable, which often contributes to discomfort in the lower back or knees. The sumo squat gradually reminds these muscles of their purpose, bringing them back into the natural rhythm of movement. At the same time, the outer hip muscles and the deep rotators around the joint begin to participate in maintaining alignment. These smaller muscles are responsible for guiding how the femur, the long bone of the thigh, moves inside the hip socket. When they function well, they keep the joint centered and balanced, allowing motion to occur smoothly without excessive strain on surrounding tissues. But when they weaken or become inactive, the body may compensate with awkward movement patterns that place additional pressure on the lower back or knees. Practicing the sumo squat regularly begins to restore this delicate coordination. The brain sends signals to multiple muscle groups at once, gradually re-establishing a more balanced and efficient pattern of movement. There is also an important effect occurring within the hip joint itself. Like many joints in the body, the hip depends on regular motion to maintain its health. Movement circulates synovial fluid, a lubricating substance that nourishes the cartilage and reduces friction between the joint surfaces. When a person lowers into the sumo squat and then rises again, the joint experiences a controlled cycle of compression and release. This gentle pressure encourages the flow of nutrients within the joint, helping maintain the resilience of the cartilage that allows the hips to move comfortably. Over time, the body begins to respond to this renewed mobility. Many people notice that their stride becomes more natural when walking as the hips regain their ability to rotate and extend properly. Tasks that once felt slightly awkward, such as bending to pick something up or stepping sideways, begin to feel smoother and more controlled. The spine also benefits because when the hips move freely, the lower back no longer needs to compensate for restricted motion below it. What begins as a simple daily exercise gradually restores a sense of openness and fluidity in the body, reminding the hips of their original role as a powerful and flexible center of human movement. Another fascinating transformation unfolds at a deeper biological level. Within the quiet relationship between muscles and metabolism, after the age of 50, the body gradually begins to experience a natural shift in how it maintains muscle tissue. Scientists often describe this process as age-related muscle decline, a slow reduction in muscle mass that occurs when muscles are not stimulated regularly. This change is not only about physical strength, it influences many internal systems that help regulate energy, blood sugar, and overall metabolic balance. Muscle tissue is one of the most metabolically active parts of the human body. Even when the body is at rest, muscles consume energy, helping maintain stable glucose levels and supporting the processes that keep the body functioning smoothly. When large muscle groups become less active, the body slowly adapts to the reduced demand. Muscle fibers shrink, metabolic activity decreases, and the body becomes less efficient at managing energy. Many people notice subtle signs of this shift after 50. Energy levels fluctuate more easily. Weight becomes harder to manage. The body may feel less responsive to physical effort. These changes are often blamed entirely on age, yet biology tells a more hopeful story. Muscles respond strongly to even small signals of activity, especially when those signals are consistent. The sumo squat provides exactly that kind of signal. Like movements that isolate a single muscle, the sumo squat recruits several large muscle groups at the same time. The glutes, the quadriceps, the inner thighs, and the stabilizing muscles of the core all become engaged during the motion. Because these muscles represent a significant portion of the body's total muscle mass, their activation sends a powerful message to the metabolic system. Each repetition gently challenges the muscles to contract, stabilize, and support the body's weight. This stimulation encourages muscle fibers to maintain their structure and function rather than gradually fading through disuse. Inside the muscle cells themselves, remarkable processes begin to unfold. When muscles contract during exercise, even at moderate intensity, they trigger a cascade of biochemical signals that influence how the body handles energy. Enzymes involved in glucose uptake become more active, allowing muscle cells to absorb and utilize sugar from the bloodstream more efficiently. This helps regulate blood sugar levels and supports overall metabolic stability. At the same time, the circulation of blood through working muscles increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients that nourish the tissue and help remove metabolic waste products. Over weeks and months of consistent practice, the body adapts to this repeated stimulation. Muscle fibers may grow slightly stronger, but even more importantly, they become more responsive to metabolic signals. The body learns to maintain a healthier balance between energy intake and energy use. This does not necessarily require intense or exhausting workouts. In many cases, gentle daily activation of large muscle groups is enough to keep the metabolic system alert and engaged. What makes the sumo squat particularly valuable after 50 is its simplicity and accessibility. It does not demand complex equipment or extreme physical effort. Instead, it invites the body to perform a natural movement that humans have used for centuries, lowering and rising from the ground. Practiced regularly, this movement quietly reminds the body that its muscles are still needed for daily life. In response, the body preserves the metabolic machinery that depends on those muscles, supporting energy balance, circulation, and long-term vitality. Another important transformation unfolds within the communication system that connects the brain to the body. Movement is often thought of as a purely muscular action, but in reality, every motion begins as a signal inside the nervous system. The brain continuously gathers information from the body through sensory receptors located in muscles, joints, and connective tissues. These receptors report on position, pressure, balance, and movement, creating a constant flow of feedback that allows the brain to coordinate how the body responds to gravity and motion. This process becomes especially important as people grow older, because balance and coordination depend not only on strength, but on how clearly the nervous system interprets these signals. As the years pass, this communication can become less precise if it is not regularly challenged. When daily activities involve mostly predictable and limited movement patterns, the nervous system receives fewer opportunities to practice adjusting posture and balance. Over time, the brain becomes slightly less efficient at predicting how the body should stabilize itself during movement. This is one reason why balance issues sometimes appear later in life. It is not simply a matter of weak muscles, but also a matter of reduced neurological practice in coordinating those muscles. The sumo squat introduces a form of movement that quietly retrains this communication. When someone stands with a wide stance and begins lowering the body toward the ground, the nervous system must process multiple signals at once. The feet press into the floor, sending information about pressure and stability through the ankles. The knees move outward, requiring careful alignment to maintain joint balance. The hips descend while the spine remains upright, calling on the core muscles to stabilize the torso. Throughout this process, tiny sensors within the muscles and tendons report changes in tension and position back to the brain. The brain responds by making continuous micro-adjustments that keep the body balanced and controlled. Each repetition becomes a subtle neurological exercise. The brain learns how to coordinate different muscle groups so they activate at the right moment and with the right amount of force. This coordination improves what scientists call proprioception, the body's ability to sense its position in space. Proprioception is essential for everyday movements such as stepping onto a curb, turning quickly while walking, or maintaining balance on uneven ground. When this sense is strong, the body reacts quickly and efficiently to shifts in weight or changes in terrain. With daily practice, the nervous system begins to refine these responses. Movements that once felt slightly uncertain begin to feel smoother and more predictable. The body develops a stronger connection between the feet and the hips, which are key centers of stability during standing and walking. This improved coordination can significantly reduce the likelihood of losing balance during sudden movements or unexpected shifts in posture. Another subtle effect occurs in the relationship between attention and movement. Performing the sumo squat encourages a person to become aware of how the body moves through space. The act of lowering and rising requires a moment of concentration, a brief pause where the mind listens to the body's signals. Over time, this awareness strengthens the connection between mental focus and physical control. Instead of moving automatically without awareness, the body learns to move with deliberate stability. Gradually, the nervous system becomes more confident in guiding the body's movements. Walking may feel steadier. Transitions between sitting and standing may require less hesitation, and the body becomes more capable of responding to sudden shifts in balance. What appears outwardly as a simple exercise quietly trains one of the most complex systems in the human body. strengthening the communication between brain and muscle that allows people to move through life with stability and confidence. Beyond the physical changes in muscles, joints, and metabolism, there is a quieter transformation that unfolds within the relationship a person has with their own body. After the age of 50, many people begin to experience a subtle shift in how they perceive their physical abilities. Years of responsibilities, work, and routine can create distance between daily life and intentional movement. The body may start to feel less like a source of strength and more like something that requires caution. Small aches appear, flexibility feels reduced, and confidence in physical capabilities slowly fades. Yet the human body is deeply responsive to attention, and even the simplest daily movement can begin to restore that connection. Practicing the sumo squat each day becomes more than an exercise. It becomes a quiet ritual of awareness. When someone stands with their feet grounded and lowers their body carefully toward the floor, they are participating in a movement that humans have performed for thousands of years. Squatting is one of the most natural patterns of the human body. Children perform it effortlessly while playing, and many traditional cultures continue to use this posture for resting or working close to the ground. Over time, however, modern environments filled with chairs, sofas, elevated surfaces gradually remove this movement from daily life. The body adapts by forgetting the ease with which it once moved in this way. When the sumo squat reappears as a daily practice, it gently reintroduces that natural pattern. At first, the movement may feel unfamiliar, perhaps even slightly challenging. The body might descend only halfway, the hips moving cautiously while the knees search for a comfortable path. But with repetition, something subtle begins to shift. The body remembers. Muscles begin to coordinate more naturally, the hips find a smoother path downward, and the feet feel more stable against the ground. The act of rising back to standing becomes a small expression of regained strength. Equally important is the psychological effect that grows alongside this physical adaptation. Each day that a person chooses to perform the movement sends a message of care and respect toward their own well-being. The exercise does not demand perfection or intensity. It simply invites presence. A few controlled repetitions can become a moment of quiet focus where breathing slows and attention returns to the body. This type of mindful movement has a powerful effect on how individuals perceive aging. Instead of viewing the passing years as a steady loss of ability, they begin to see the body as something still capable of learning and adapting. Consistency gradually replaces doubt with familiarity. Movements that once seemed difficult become part of a comfortable routine. This sense of capability extends beyond the exercise itself and begins to influence everyday actions. Standing up from a chair feels more confident, walking feels more stable, and even posture may change as the body regains a sense of alignment and support. Over time, the daily squat becomes symbolic of something deeper than physical strength. It represents a commitment to maintaining connection with the body, honoring its ability to respond and improve regardless of age. Through repetition, patience, and awareness, the movement transforms from a simple exercise into a small daily affirmation that vitality does not disappear with time, but continues to grow wherever care and intention are present.